This week on Spoke TV, service dogs are a great help for those who need them, but we talk to a local trainer about the growing problem of fake service dogs.
How the dog helps them is nobody's business.
And we visit some local businesses to find out how entrepreneurs find success.
But it's also one of the hardest things to do because there's so many other people doing it.
Later, interested in blacksmithing? We take a look at local blacksmithing companies teaching people how to make knives. Hello, and welcome to Spoke TV, Conestoga College's weekly news show produced by second-year journalism students. I'm Mike Stromey.
And I'm Marty Young. Now for a look at the troubling trend of people purchasing counterfeit service animal vests for their untrained animals. Spoke TV's Sandra Shimpraga has more.
Sit down.
Service dog training takes months of hard work, but there is a negative trend on rise in which some pet owners who want to take their dogs anywhere buy a service dog vest on the internet and put it on their pet, but they don't have a document issued by a doctor stating they need a service animal.
There's a legal documentation. You can get a certificate with your dog's name on it, with a picture. You can get a letter of certification from the organization.
National Service Dogs Executive Director Danielle Forbes explains how business owners can check if they have fake service dog in their establishment.
What type of disability the person has, how the dog helps them is nobody's business. That's their personal medical history, and so it's not an appropriate question to ask. In the province of Ontario, you're allowed to ask for a doctor's note. That's it.
Service dog user Shermaine Khan is worried for fake service dogs' safety.
The proliferation of using fake service dogs has no winners. The handler isn't winning. The dog is placed in a potentially unsafe and unfair situation, and it's very concerning for people who do have a legitimate need for a service dog, because suddenly their need for their service dog has been compromised and put into question.
Contrary to BC and Alberta, there is no Service Dog Act here in Ontario, so our government is not qualifying dogs and issuing service dog cards. For Spoke TV, I'm Sandra Shimpraga.
Thanks, Sandra. The city of Waterloo is looking to make large street parties, such as the one on Ezra Street on St. Patrick's Day and Homecoming, a thing of the past. A change to the City of Waterloo's public nuisance bylaw has been made to crack down on gatherings and parties that spill out onto city streets. Bylaw and law enforcement will patrol the city streets earlier in the day to diffuse large gatherings deemed unsafe. Bylaw has the ability to charge back any costs to those responsible for property damage. Authorities will also be watching for public intoxication, underage drinking, public consumption of alcohol, public urination, and littering.
The Ontario Newspaper Awards are fast approaching. Connor Morgan takes a look at the nominees right here in Waterloo Region.
Nominees revealed March 8th ahead of the 64th Ontario Newspaper Awards. Waterloo Region Record has 5 award nominations this year, one short of last year's 6. Nominees include Joel Rubinoff, Josh Brown, Matthew McCarthy, and Greg Mercer. Mercer has been nominated for 2 awards this year, beat reporting and sports writing, although he doesn't have a specific beat.
I don't have a beat here at the Record, which is a bit of a luxury, which means sometimes I have time to chase stories that if you're tied to a beat, you don't have as much time to do.
Mercer has won ONAs in the past.
Won in sports, in business writing, won in feature writing and environmental writing, and I think there's another category for general news feature writing. So I've won a few.
One of Mercer's editors, Ron DeReuter, welcomes the chance to showcase local talent in the field of journalism, as well as recognize journalists for their strong work.
It kind of validates the importance of local journalism. And if you look at all the nominees and the work they've done, it's quite wide-ranging, covering everything from investigative to breaking news to perspective context pieces on culture. And it just shows the many ways that a newspaper can touch on the lives of people in the community.
The newsroom is a team, and the editors work closely with the reporters and writers to make nominations like these possible.
They need to support you and back you up. Then they're also just that second set of eyes on the story. You know, have you thought about this? Have you put more emphasis on that? Or maybe let's not go that direction. It's just you know, we'll bounce ideas off each other.
The Record hopes to win some awards this year, but that's not the most important thing about covering news.
At the end of the day, not all the good work we do is going to be recognized by awards. There's strong stuff you just do.
Just because you didn't get a nomination doesn't mean that you're not doing good work, right? There's a lot of great journalism that goes on every day in the province.
Winners will be chosen in just over a month's time.
The awards will be handed out April 28th in Toronto. For Spoke TV, I'm Connor Morgan.
After the break, find out what off-color name has been given to the region's newest brewery.
In the competitive craft brewing industry, a good name can set you apart. Two Cambridge brothers have opened up a brewery that certainly does that. A number of breweries have come up in the region, and Cambridge is home to the newest venture that's all about freshly brewed craft beer. Two brothers, Keith and Wayne Saunders, are the co-founders of Jackass Brewing Company. Keith Saunders talks about how their childhood nicknames evolved into their company's namesake.
My brother and I are business partners in this, and growing up, that was something we always called each other. We were always the Jackass. We like to joke around, fool around. It's this way that we are, so we thought we might as well just do something that's different.
Jackass opened its taps on February 23rd and is currently brewing through 3 beers, including a nutty porter, which boasts a blend of chocolate and hazelnut, and plans to launch a cranberry hibiscus beer in the coming months.
It's tough to create a successful business. Our next story takes a look at a long-standing business and a newer business to see how their owners set themselves apart from the competition. Spoke TV's Connor Morgan has more.
The heartbeat of Waterloo lays within its uptown core. There are restaurants, pubs, coffee shops, pizzerias, salons, clothing stores, among all sorts of other mom-and-pop businesses. Entrepreneurs keep the uptown area busy. With 2 universities in the immediate proximity, students have all sorts of places to eat, shop, and relax. Glenn Smith, the owner of Ethel's Lounge, has owned the establishment for over 2 decades.
This June would be 24 years. Since 94.
Born and raised in Kitchener, being a business owner is something that runs in the family for Smith.
Both my parents had a small business together, so I grew up in the environment.
Smith hasn't always run a restaurant, though.
I opened 3 different bars in Kitchener first. I had a wholesale business in Kitchener before that. Had a record store in Hamilton.
There was always one thing Smith really focused on when opening a business.
It all gets down to location. The different locations I had in Kitchener at the time in the 70s and 80s were the right location for that idea at the time.
Ethel's was no exception.
When I came to do Ethel's, this location had everything that I needed at that time for the right price. Lots of parking, which has become more valuable. An area I could build a patio, close enough to students yet far enough away that I don't really rely on them. The locals come in.
Among the staff at Ethel's is one who aspires to be a future entrepreneur. Austin Kitty dreams of one day opening his own restaurant or eatery and is learning every day what it takes.
I think definitely the most important thing in looking forward is that I kind of observe everyone else and what they're doing and kind of what their mistakes are and what the good things they've done are, and kind of just take a little bit of that from everybody and make it my own.
Being a new entrepreneur presents difficulties and has rewards. New entrepreneur Derek Weinert owns a clothing company called Good Cat Co. that originally started at Humber back in 2016.
I had a thesis project for my business tourism degree.
Weinert chose to come up with a clothing brand.
That's the easiest thing you can do in reality, but it's also one of the hardest things to do because there's so many other people doing it. But I don't personally care about clothing, which I think is the difference. I never have. I always just went for super simple stuff.
Weinert decided to keep the venture moving after graduating, and although his very relaxed, go-with-the-flow mentality may go against the grain of a normal business model, simplicity is plenty.
I never put more than one color on something. If the tank top is bright, why do you need a whole bunch of other bright colors? You can have a simple little insignia on the side.
Derek's brother Mike has had a large role in Good Cat since the beginning.
It was a great idea. I was kind of looking to do a similar thing, and then when kind of he he kind of brought the brand up to me. I was like, yeah, like Good Cat, like everything just kind of clicked. So instead of me doing my own thing, him doing his own thing, he had the plan, he had the brand, so it made sense to kind of collab and go from there.
Mike is also an entrepreneur. He started Purple Shark Embroidery, which does all the stitching and embroidery for Good Cat's clothing.
It kind of gave us the creativity and the control to kind of step in and play around with designs and not outsource everything.
The dynamic between them is unique and creates a perfect business marriage.
People helping, like people, I'll help you out, you help me out. Let's all make a bit of money, hopefully, and live happy lives.
That's something Derek can also attest to.
Focus on what you actually like doing, and if you see yourself stressing over something you don't like to do, to me that was, I never did it, but I feel like if you go that path, you're going to end up doing a bunch of stuff you don't want to do.
The Weiner brothers hope to have the same success that Smith has had over the past couple decades.
6 students from Conestoga College's electrical technology program are in the running to compete in the Skills Canada national competition. Spoke TV's Jason Asa was on the scene.
March 10th, Conestoga College held an open house that saw the electrical program showcase their skills in a competition pre-qualifier in the ATS building. The competition had 6 students competing for one spot to represent Conestoga College at Skills Canada in Toronto on May 7th. There were 6 competitors, 3 of them being second-year students and 3 of them being first-year students. Chris Daller, professor of electrical program, was impressed with his students, finishing the project within 2 hours.
Well, it was really nice to see a mix of first year and second year students. It was really nice to see that everybody finished this year. So all the second years did really well because they were familiar with the competition.
The judges, once seeing all the projects, narrowed it to only 3 that were built by 2 second year students and 1 first year student. Open House has created a buzz around electrical students as they show off their talents and face against each other in front of judges and see who is crowned the winner. D'Angelo Yalantulin, a first-year student, was the awarded the winner and the right to represent Conestoga College at Skills Canada. Yalantulin says he's excited to go to Skills Canada.
I'm pretty excited for Ontario Skills. I've never been, and this is definitely a great opportunity for my resume, as well as building off other people's workmanships and seeing how they do it differently, and learning different codes as I make mistakes here and there.
It was a good competition with some great projects by the competitors. For Spoke TV, I'm Jason Asa.
Up later, we'll take a deeper look into the Oscar winner of Best Picture.
An organization on Queen Street in Kitchener supports local artists by bringing art into the workspace. Walter Fetty funds the openings and makes it worthwhile for artists to come out and showcase their work in the community. Casetta Black has more.
Walter Fetty on Queen Street in Kitchener is an architectural engineering and construction company that supports local artists by displaying their works in their company working space as a way of bringing art into work environments.
Walter Fetty is a construction architect and engineer firm. So for me, bringing this type of work into that environment was very exciting to be able to cross-pollinate. And
the artworks are displayed here at the Walter Fetty for 3 months. Their employees are allowed to purchase them, and so is the general public by appointment only.
The workers that work here and come in and out are the workers of the world that often don't get a chance to go to the galleries. So
Walter Fetty funds the art openings, which makes it worthwhile for local artists to participate.
They have developed a program here so that artists actually get paid to hang their art, and so it's a huge incentive for artists to share their work and be part of the corporate community as well.
Local artists get a chance to display their works, meet other artists, and communicate to the public about their art.
This particular show was responding to a theme of spirit, which from an artist's point of view is very interesting, responding to a thematic title like that.
For Spoke TV, I'm Casetta Black.
In sports, the annual NCAA National Basketball Tournament tipped off south of the border March 15th, and this year's incarnation of the 64-team tournament is without a clear-cut favorite, putting extra emphasis on the term March Madness. The 4 number 1 seeds in this year's tournament are Xavier, Virginia, Kansas, and Villanova. The NFL free agency period began on March 14th, and there are many familiar faces in new places. Former Redskins quarterback Kirk Cousins signed a 3-year deal with the Minnesota Vikings. Former Vikings quarterbacks Sam Bradford, Case Keenum, and Teddy Bridgewater signed with the Cardinals, Broncos, and Jets. The Green Bay Packers were busy right out of the gate, signing 5-time Pro Bowl tight end Jimmy Graham and former Pro Bowl defensive lineman Muhammad Wilkerson. The team also cut veteran wide receiver Jordy Nelson. The Cleveland Browns were also busy turning over a roster that failed to win a game in 2017, acquiring quarterback Tyrod Taylor, running back Carlos Hyde, wide receiver Jarvis Landry, cornerbacks Demarius Randall, and TJ Carey. The team also announced the retirement of 6-time All-Pro tackle Joe Thomas, who played over 10,000 consecutive snaps during his 11-year career with the Browns.
In entertainment news, Netflix has released a trailer for the highly anticipated second season of The Stand-Ups. The new season will feature half-hour comedy sets from Aparna Nancherla, who has already landed a new role on Comedy Central's Corporate. The new season will also feature Gina Yashere, who's been a long-standing festival comic and recently named Daily Show correspondent. Most surprisingly, Brent Morin was also included, who has already had an hour-long special with the network. Season 2 of The Stand-Ups starts streaming on March 21st. One of the biggest touring comics in the world is coming to Kitchener. Bill Burr will play 2 sold-out shows on March 17th at the Centre in the Square. It was a surprising move for the comedian, foregoing Toronto or Hamilton for the only Ontario date of his tour. Tickets sold out in a day for the crass Bostonian comic, and third-party resale prices are in the upwards of the $200 range.
Our Spoke TV reporter Tushar Sethi met up with a local film lover and Rogers TV producer to discuss the Oscar-winning film, The Shape of Water.
Thanks, Mike. Today we are joined by Carla Fitzsimmons, who is the producer at Rogers TV, and we are going to talk about The Shape of Water. Welcome to the show, Carla.
Thank you.
What do you think about the cast of the movie?
Oh, well, you have an impeccable cast. I mean, you've got Richard Jenkins and Octavia Spencer. I wasn't really familiar with the main character in the show, or in the movie. I have seen her in things, but I wasn't really familiar with her work. But, I mean, it was definitely sensational.
And if you talk about the box office collection, the budget of the movie was 19 million, and they have done pretty good in this movie. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, I think in this day and age, it's hard to know what is going to be a big success at the box office. It's one of those things that action movies do really well, but do movies like this do well? And I think this proves that there's still an audience for that type of movie, because it's sci-fi, but it's fantasy, it's romance, it's a lot of things. So I think it draws a larger audience than maybe what you would see in terms of like a action flick.
And if you talk about the uniqueness of the movie, some dialects that you like, or maybe some scenes that you like?
Well, I think the uniqueness of the movie isn't as unique as what most people might think. This is a little bit before your time, but in 1984 there was a similar movie in the sense of the context of it. It was called Splash, and Tom Hanks, a young Tom Hanks I might add, starred in it, and he was in love with a mermaid. So it's very similar in a lot of ways. There's scene by scene, if you do an analysis, you can see some of the similarities. The story though with Shape of Water is definitely more of a love story that draws on the heartstrings. Splash was more of a romantic comedy, and it was more towards the male audience as opposed to the female audience. So I think there's some similarities, but there's some differences. But ultimately, I mean, you're gonna get repetitive storylines and stuff. It's Hollywood. They like to remake things, they like to change things, but they always stick with the same kind of formula. So it's about time for a movie that's very similar.
So talking about the good box office collection, Oscar winning, do you think people should go and watch this movie?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's one of those movies that is worth going to see. It has an impeccable cast. I think you have to kind of leave logic at the door a certain amount, because obviously that isn't something that's really going to happen. But at the same time, I think it's worth seeing. I think it's one of those movies that will probably go down as a fantastical kind of movie in history, and I think it'll be one of those ones that gets revisited from time to time to time.
Well, thank you so much for being on our show. And if you haven't watched the movie, you should go and watch. Back to you people in the studio.
A local business is opening its doors to the public to share an age-old skill with those who are willing to learn. Matthew DeVette Johnson has more.
Blacksmithing is a trade that has existed for thousands of years, and this week in Kitchener, Waterloo, a group of people are getting the option to learn this ancient craft for themselves. Starting on Monday, March 12th, Two Smiths, a metalworking company in the city, started their first week-long blacksmithing course on how to forge and build knives. Declan Graham is one of the students, an aspiring machinist who came for the experience.
I just thought it was a lot of fun. I enjoy the creative side of metalworking a lot more than like the technical stuff. So I just thought it'd be a lot of fun to try out making a blade.
Monday's class was all about creating the base for the knives that the students would be constructing by assembling a forge-welded core of wrought iron and high-carbon steel. Instructing them in this process was Jeff Helms, a veteran smith whose work includes creating recreation weapons for the Royal Ontario Museum, such as this spearhead.
I enjoy teaching. I usually it's really rewarding to show somebody something that you've spent a lot of time and energy trying to learn yourself.
Two Smiths don't intend for this to be the only time lessons will be taught at their forges. They hope to continue to hold such programs and extend lessons into other aspects of metalworking, like bronze casting and acid etching, though no date for the next class has yet been decided.
So, if you're interested in learning about blacksmithing, check out Two Smiths in Kitchener, Waterloo. I can personally guarantee that nothing this hot has ever been so cool. For Spoke TV, I'm Matthew DeVette Johnston.
Thanks, Matthew. The next introductory knife making course will be held in August. Check out twosmiths.ca for more information.
And you actually have tickets to that big Bill Burr show, right?
Yeah, I do. I got him as a Christmas gift, and I honestly can't wait. I'm a big fan. I've seen all of his specials, and he's just one of the funnier comics out there, and I can't wait to see him.
I am more than a little jealous. Well, that's all the time we have for this week. For more information, please visit our website at spoketv.ca and make sure to follow us on Twitter at SpokeTV.